Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and this is our World of Darkness. It's Thursday, and on Thursday, for the last 13 weeks, we've been discussing the clans of Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition. Now, there are 13 clans, so why am I here on week 14? Well, because there are some unmentioned individuals. The orphans, the clanless, the unbound. Some call them scum, some call them panders. Today I want to talk about the Caitiff, and where they are not exactly a clan, they are a classification of kindred, who need to be taken in consideration, because they are a much larger part of the world of darkness than given credit for. So, settle in, grab yourself a glass of something red, and let's discuss the Unbound. Now, when I first started gaming, and I learned about the Caitiff, I found that the Caitiff were one of two kinds. There were those who were ostracized from their parent clan, and those who did not have a clan at all. They did not show the stigma of the clan. They did not receive the benefits of the clan. Life was all around harder for them. The concept of individuals being ostracized by a clan and removed due to the fact that they had embarrassed themselves or their sires to the point where they had been removed, but not yet deserving the final death, was always an interesting thought to me. Because this would mean that it would have to have happened after the customary year and a day of getting used to kindred society. This would have had to have happened after they were released into the loving arms of the Camarilla. So, that holds interesting because these are individuals who already know what to and what not to do. I do find, however, that stigma of being Caitiff only is on a geographical basis because it's a political leaning more than anything else. If I am a Toreador and I've done something to piss off my clan, then they may consider me Caitiff or Caitiff. Clanless. I still suffer from the Bane. I still have access to the Toreador's wide range of powers, and I still have all the benefits of being a Toreador, except for the social clique that comes with the clan. Same true for all the others. Now, that being the case, I've always taken it on a one-for-one basis on status and territory. And what I mean by that is, if you have angered individuals enough for you to have been removed from the clan, and the prime person that you've pissed off has a status of 1, I would say that if you packed up and left, not that is the simplest thing for kindred to do due to lupines and other dangers when traveling, but if you were to change cities, just jump one over, you tend to be fine. Now, I do find that if the person has higher status, the further out they would have to go, again on a one-by-one basis. Are these really Caitiff, then? If you can be told that you are out of the clan, and then just be able to pack up and leave, and then be considered part of that clan somewhere else. No. You may be a pariah in your own hometown, but you're still a member of the clan in other places around the world. So, the other type of Caitiff are those who were embraced wrong, if you can say that. I've come to change my opinion on Caitiff when it comes to this situation. The idea of someone being embraced, no matter what generation, you don't actually have to be a thin blood to become a Caitiff. If you are embraced and abandoned, or embraced and lost, you can have a Tremere, or someone else. Even quick deduction will point out whether you are a member of a clan or not. I am currently playing Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York. I have been embraced into Clan Brujah. No one has identified my sire. No one knows exactly what clan I am, but I am specifically playing a Brujah. So am I a Caitiff? Don't believe so. I am an unthought Brujah. I still suffer from the stigmas of being a Brujah. I still have the benefits of being a Brujah. And therefore, I am not a Caitiff. Now, those who are embraced, and for some reason, whatever it may be, the blood did not rip into the soul to the point where I'm now suffering from the clan Bane. That's a Caitiff. If someone is embraced by Clan Nosferatu and left to wallow in filth, or left to become deformed over time and are checked upon and they are still absolutely fine, but still produce the disciplines of offuscate potence and animalism, they are Caitiff, because they don't suffer from the bane of the clan. The bane truly is the one thing that holds them in. Now, there are mechanical changes when it comes to a Caitiff and a standard vampire, such as the fact that purchasing levels of disciplines tends to be more difficult. It takes longer to learn. But is this because it's not in their blood, or is this because they didn't have anyone to teach them the basics? Now, if you are a Ventru, or a Toreador, or Malkavian, or whatever, and you're able to successfully hide within your clan to not let them know that you're not suffering from the bane, you do tend to still have the issues of learning disciplines. Now, you also have the access to learning all of the disciplines, as long as you follow all the criteria for learning new disciplines. It is 100% capable for a perfect Caitiff to have every one of the disciplines. Bit of access. Given the limitations of your blood potency and generation, that is. So, what are the downsides of being a Caitiff, aside from a slightly elevated cost and experience when it comes to buying disciplines? Mostly political. Mostly political. The Camarilla used to allow Caitiff within its ranks. They believed that if you had a sponsor, you could be adopted into a clan and therefore given a purpose. However, this does not seem to be the case thus far. I have in front of me a writing by the Prince of Mexico City, Fiorenza Savana. Those of you who are fans of Jason Carl's work in LA by Night or his Seattle Chronicle may know of this NPC. She is a lore sheet, which we will cover eventually. But, in the words of Fiorenza Savana, the Caitiff, some vampires are not welcome in the Camarilla, as they would weaken us from within. This goes doubly for those with no clan at all. Caitiff is what we call those who do not belong to any one bloodline, and do not manifest their natural clan bane or blessings. Lineage is important, the blood remembers, and so should we. This is why we, Ventru, recite the deeds of our ancestors at court, and call on them for wisdom when we struggle. A fledgling who does not have a good sense to be of decent blood, or who refuses that which they have no potential of becoming a worthwhile neonate, simply because they do not have a real identity. If I don't know who embraced you, I don't know if you are a liability. Most Caitiff are liabilities, thrashing around looking for parental figure who won't be disgusted by their pointlessness. Such desperation never ends well. It brings disharmony to the structure of our society, interrupts the progress of our great history. The clanless are not like the rest of us. Even the Ravno, Lilith bless their dozen or so souls, are defined by something, but the Caitiff have no past and thus no future. They do not fight for anything bigger than themselves, and so they are ruled only by momentary desires. Compared to most immortals, guided as we are by great destinies, they barely exist. Caitiff were nominally permitted within the Camarilla, with a sponsor. Until recently, we can no longer afford to entertain the trope of the lost royal heir by playing saviors to those orphans. Cutting them off cost us 2 princes, one of which revealed himself to be a member of the ministry all along. But their places have already been filled by better kindred of worthy lines. Still, the Camarilla respects those who are willing to bleed to uphold the traditions, and even a caitiff may prove themselves and gain rights in certain domains. It's all about understanding your position. Fiorenza. From what I understand, Fiorenza is the neonate prince of Mexico City, now that we have wrested it from the Sabbat. And what of the Sabbat? The Sabbat are gone, but yet the name Pander, what they used to call the Caitiff, has still continued to this night. Now, maybe that is because of the openness the Tzimisce are placing towards becoming independent, or the language of the La Sombra leaking in to the Camarilla with their entry. But the Caitiff proved themselves in the Sabbat in the 1960s during a Sabbat civil war, and by battling against the Camarilla, led by a Caitiff by the name of Joseph Pander, proving their worth, proving that they were not worthless, and proving that they could have a cause, unlike our dear Fiorenza has to say about that. From that moment on, the Sabbat called all Caitiff Panders after Joseph Pander, honoring them with nearly a title of clan. Now, that could be due to the fact that the La Sombra, being the smooth political manipulators as they are, were trying to give their new tools more morality. As it is, morality has always been a point of the Sword of Cain. Hyping one's cannon fodder up to have them do exactly what you want them to do by them thinking it's their idea has always been important. It could also run deeper than that. That could be the La Sombra and the Tzimisce's way of making the rest of the anti-tribu, who were politically considered Caitiff, feel as if they weren't under the pure blood clans of the Shadow Weavers and the Flesh Crafters within the Sabbat. If the Caitiff themselves can be considered a full-blooded clan, so could any of the anti-tribu. Now, I would say that the best place for a Caitiff would be within the Anarch community. And, for the most part, being an unbound, the ultimate unbound, you're not bound to the affairs of your sire. You're not bound to the ideas of your blood. You are not bound to an antediluvian oppressor. That would be the right place, correct? Well, unfortunately, clans call to clans. Blood calls to blood. The Anarchs are no different. The Brujah tend to rally with the Brujah. The Toreador tend to rally with the Toreador. Ventru, Gangrel, Nosferatu, even the Ipsissimus Tremere. They tend to gather in groups of like blood. So even in this standpoint, the Caitiff are left alone in the dark. They may be respected as a whole, but they're still not included. And that needs to be that needs to be in our understanding, is that the Caitiff are in fact alone no matter where they go. Now, a group of Unbound are starting to form themselves as a sect. The Caitiff are starting to gain power, because whereas the Church of Cain states that all Caitiff would be considered a sin because of their lack of inclusion in bloodlines that would be considered pure due to antediluvian worship, the Caitiff themselves have no bond to this. Are the Caitiff being called by the beckoning? Are the elders of the Caitiff being called by the beckoning? No one can really be for sure. I would probably say no. I would say no because I believe the beckoning is those elders calling them to the Middle East to fight in the Gehenna Wars. Whether that has anything to do with antediluvians or not, that is not under my consideration. I do believe blood calls to blood, regardless of the fact if you believe the myths or not. Now, I don't typically go over archetypes, but there is something, and I don't plan on going over them in great detail here, but there is something that I think that should be acknowledged, and that's all Caitiff tend to be taken in from abusive stances. That is, if you are a Caitiff embracing and bringing somebody else into the fold, they tend to reach out to individuals who are survivors of abuse in some fashion. The individuals that are raised on the street due to the fact that their parents do not care or cannot afford to have them treated any better. The individuals who have survived horrible relationships where they have been treated like garbage and have found a way to rise above. These individuals are considered strong enough. They nearly have a La Sombra way of embracing those who have been tortured and risen from the ashes. These are the phoenixes of Kindred society. Every once in a while you have those who are highly overestimated, and they believe that they'll be able to survive since they survive other things, but where to most Caitiff it might be a release to be embraced, it's more of another damning aspect of life. Now, there are also those secret Caitiff, the individuals who are embraced by their clans and find a way to hide it. The Ventru, who does not want their clan to realize that they can feed from all others, and that the bane of their kindred lineage is not actually seeped into them, but they're using it to hold their ground. They're learning about their clan that they're truly not a part of, but they're keeping that aspects to themselves. Then there's also those who are embraced and found out not to have the weakness. If you're Nosferatu, you can barely ever hide yourself from this fact. Malkavians tend to be able to tell each other's own. Toreador. Sometimes your child just doesn't get it. So, I have no specific discipline to read today, but I would like to read from the Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition core book on what it actually says about disciplines here. Caitiff characters have access to 3 disciplines of their choice following the embrace. These are not considered in clan for the purposes of experience cost, and the Caitiff can learn any discipline at the same price, assuming they taste the blood of the wielder at least once and fulfill the standard conditions for that discipline. Blood residence is going to be very, very important when it comes to Kindred of the Caitiff persuasion. They're going to have to learn quickly who to feed from and how to feed so that they can learn as much as they can and gain as much ability as they can. They do need every ounce that they can gather to survive. Now, as we said, the Caitiff don't exactly have a bane, but untouched by the antediluvians, the Caitiff share no common bane. Caitiff characters begin with the secret Untouched by the antediluvian, the Caitiff share no common bane. Caitiff characters begin with the suspect flaw, and you may not purchase positive status for them. Blah 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 blah. Untouched by the antediluvians, the Caitiff share no common bane. Caitiff characters begin with the suspect flaw, and you may not purchase positive status for them during character creation. The storyteller may always impose a 1 or 2 dice penalty on social tests against fellow kindred who know they are Caitiff, regardless of their eventual status. Further, to improve one of the disciplines of the Caitiff cost 6 times the level purchased in experience points. They do have a bane, but it's mostly about not fitting in for one reason or another. Now, that being what we have just gone over, I would like to also take a look at the suspect flaw that they say that they have. Under the status advantages, there is no actual mention of the suspect flaw. However, it does say in a final sentence under status, before it gets into the actual flaws and advantages, that Caitiff characters begin with a suspect flaw and may not purchase positive status during character creation. That is all I can find. Perhaps in other editions of the book it does say something else. Now, there is one other thing I would like to cover, and I do not need books for this, and that is the fact that Cain himself was a Caitiff. He had no clan. His children also had no clan. The antediluvians themselves were Caitiff and had no clan. We didn't start seeing the idea of clans until around the 4th generation. So, is it possible? Is it possible that the Caitiff are actually a pure type of vampire, and that there tends to be a jealousy that the other clans have? Is it possible that the kindred of the clans are bound together in a resentment for the Caitiff due to the fact that they suffer, and therefore the Caitiff must suffer as well? Their bane is a social one. They are alone. And I think as a storyteller that I wish there were more players who were willing to take on the mantle of Caitiff, to show the rising of Caitiff, to show that eventually they will overflow into the other world, as perhaps Cain's curses towards the clans, or the antediluvians' curses for the clans, depending on what your thought on that may be. Maybe they're becoming weaker, or perhaps they're being released. And the reason that there are more Cainites that do not have a bane is because their blood is becoming more pure, that the curses are not affecting them any longer, because it is time for these curses to have run their course. There is a chance that the future will be outside of the traditions of the Camarilla, and a whole new race of kindred, these Caitiff, will be the primary species of kindred in the world of darkness. Now, on a final thought, all thin bloods are Caitiff. That needs to be taken into consideration. But not all Caitiff are thin blood. Thin-blooded vampires have existed since the Dark Ages. They've always existed. You could argue, as I had said before, that Cain, being who he was, had no clan, was therefore the first Caitiff. I'm very interested to know what exactly you, as storytellers and players of Vampire the Masquerade, plan to do with your Caitiff. Do you plan on embracing them as being a major thorn in the side of all sects involved? Or are your princes going to lovingly open their arms and allow the Caitiff to return back to their cities? I've got my ideas on what I plan on doing, but I look very forward to hearing from you. So please comment down below. Like if you enjoyed the content, and if you would like more, please subscribe. I do also plan on remaking the last 13 videos I have put out due to quality reasons. Either audio or video, I do believe that I can do much better, and I do plan on doing just that. Thank you for joining me in our world of darkness, and I will be back next week to discuss the Thin Bloods and their blood alchemy. Good evening.